Chicago and ECTV. And today we are going on a tour with Sims Metals here, located in East Chicago. They're a company that processes metals, and they are going to give us a tour. So let's go see what they got.
I feel like a movie star right now.
Andre? So at every scale, we also
somebody small comes in, like when a washer machine or anything like that. Is this a place they'll drop it off and they get sold to them? They get.
And so
We're coming through the yard.
making sure that we're not.
Material that's purchased from a customer. So they have material in the back of that box right there. We weigh it in heavy, so it's full, and then he'll go drop the material in the yard, and then he'll weigh out empty with nothing in the box, and that's how we pay our customers. Okay. Is based on the weight that's in that box, and then the grading in the yard. So it could be anything from a large tube to a beam to miscellaneous, obsolete, washers, dryers, anything you could think of from household items as well.
So Matt, in relation to that, James just asked me a question. If somebody brought up their a washer, washer and dryer, today, how does that work? Could they bring it in? They need an account. How do we accommodate individuals?
So you set up. Every customer has an account with their ID on file. So they will come in. They'll fill out a form. They'll agree to our terms of selling, which is, it can't be any hazardous material that they're bringing to us. And so they'll agree to that form of what it says on there. We'll take their license. We'll give them a unique vendor number. So each customer that we have, we can track how much material they bring, the dates of shipment, the times of shipment. Every single scale house that we have has cameras inside of it as well. So every transaction, there's all documentation to it. So anybody if they have a washer or dryer, they can come in here, set up an account, bring it to us, and we'll take it off their hands for them, and then pay them for that as well.
We also follow.
Oh, now you can see everybody on the bus. Everybody waves, say hi.
Now I will get the back of your head.
Oh, no, that's not right.
Scrap theft laws, because there is a lot of unfortunate people that try to illegally take some scrap metal and try to sell it to us. So we take a picture of their face, we take a picture of their vehicle, we take a picture of their license plate number. We take a picture of the load. So if the police were to say, hey, have you seen XYZ? We can go back through. Did you get a white Nova in the last week? We can go back through our records and see if we accepted that type of car in our facility to sell metal, and then who sold it to us.
That's why even with the non-ferrous small amounts, the plumbing, copper, and stuff like that, we don't take walk-ins. Everything has to be in a vehicle, so they come across the scale and get pictures of everything.
Not in a grocery cart, because more than likely.
So you're not going to find a lot of just gold out on the street. So it's not really a big product of ours. So for us, it's more volume is going to come in your ferrous. So your steel, what a magnet sticks to. The gold, there's not say you buy copper and aluminum, right? Because you have a lot of copper piping in your house. You have a lot of aluminum siding on your house, things like that. But gold there's not a lot of it out there. So you find that in like circuit boards and things, that are inside of electronics. That's not something that we really do here. We have another facility in West Chicago that actually does that though. Yeah. If someone did bring me a lot of gold, I would question where that came from.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Again, that's something you don't find in your
Now
garage.
you take vehicles too?
We do, but we do not take them at this facility currently. So we do have a metal shredder in the city of Chicago where we do take vehicles once they're no longer working. They go to an auto wrecking company where they drain the car of all their fluids, take the batteries out, so that it's environmentally safe to shred that vehicle, which is something that we are hoping that we can do here at some point in East Chicago.
On your left right here, this is stationary shear. It's a Bazzani 1,000 ton shear. You can see he's processing what Matt was talking about, the tubing, the pile right underneath the belt. We cut it to like 3 to 4 foot. You can see the pile of unprepared once we go around. But the other material sitting here is what we call heavy melt. It's Matt buys it. It's like towers, electrical towers, the big electrical towers. So they chop it down and they bring it here and we size it. If you look at this pile right here to your left, that's what it looks like after it goes through the machine. This machine cuts about 20 to 22 ton per hour, which is basically one truckload.
So that tubing that's coming off there right now is what I was talking about, is the material used. It's called structural tubing. So that could be used in reinforcements for buildings. If you see the side of rail cars, and if you see that rail car over there, how it has those side bars on it, that's probably made out of something similar to that. So at one point, they have 100-foot sections of that tubing. They only need 80 feet of it. They'll cut off the other 20 feet, and then that 20 feet comes to us to break down or to cut down to the size that the steel mill needs it at to melt it the most efficiently that they can.
This machine will we process about 4,000 ton a month through this machine.
As you drive back to either the office or your house, as you drive down, you'll see if you see a lot of pipe that's holding something up, or even you see these big electrical poles, it's likely coming from a company that we deal with, and they're bringing it here to be cut down for their scrap portion of the material they have left over. It's one thing that I like to do as I'm driving, is try to figure out, who made that, where that came from, and can I get the cutoffs of it at some point.
You're stopping here. You're cutting this down.
Yeah.
How long is this going to be here? Go forward just a little bit more.
Basically, have a bright day. You can really see.
Yeah, we're fortunate with the weather. Right, that's good. It's going to be hard for me to turn around here. But this machine on the right is the one I was talking about. This is a baler, a 4036 baler. It processes, you can see the loose scrap. Matt calls it clean sheet. I call it something else. But
I call it a clip.
But what we do is can you see behind the crane the bales? They're like square cubes.
Yes.
All right, you put all that loose material, and there are different assortment of material, clips and clean sheet and coils and mandrel coils, which we have them sitting. Well, there's a little bit set right in front of the hopper, right in front of the crane. And we go ahead and make the bundles. The bundles are about 2,000 pounds each, right around there, and we sell them to the mills. They're real dense material, and the mills love it. We process probably 6,000 tons a month with this machine.
So each material that we're selling, so the reason that we separate this material from that material is because a steel mill needs specific chemistries to make when a steel mill is selling their finished product, they need to guarantee a certain chemistry, hardness, or whatever they're making for their customer as well. So with all the historical data that's out there, the bundle chemistry is different than a tubing chemistry. A shred chemistry is different from a P&S chemistry. P&S being a plate and structural, so all the beams that are in buildings and things like that, when a demolition happens and they tear that building down, we'll take the beams into here and cut that down. All that has a different density to it and a different chemistry to it. So we separate all that and then sell it to the steel mill, and then they have their mix to get their chemistry as well to sell to their consumer.
12 loads, about 160 to 180 ton a day.
What's the lifespan
They know what
of
they're
the
doing.
machines? Yes.
Well, that's a 1989.
Oh, okay.
It's as long as you take care of it.
How long?
Yeah.
Anything else there?
It sounds crazy, but that's the way it is.
Right.
Most machines like this, the bed of it, the charging box has wear plates. As long as you keep up with the wear plates, the machine will keep running.
That machine is from Italy, isn't it? Boy, the Mazzari sheet.
Yeah, Bazzani. It's from Italy. Yes, it is. We had another one of those at a yard that I was at before this, but we got rid of it. To your left here, this is the torch field. And this is some demo scrap that Matt buys. Matt, if you want to talk about this, it looks like overhead crane material is what I think it is.
Yeah, so we deal with some of the largest demolition companies in the country. So large project that goes on. The latest one, the BNSF was taking down one of their buildings. One of their major overhead cranes that was coming out of there, along with the whole building itself. So this is what the demolition customer, they're like we were talking about with separating their material. They're going to separate all this out. Some of the material comes to Wayne here. Some of the material, based on if it needs to be shredded, it has to go to the city of Chicago. And that's what, hopefully at some point that we're able to bring all the material here in East Chicago and shred it here.
And torching wise, depending on what it is, we cut it to spec again for the mills. Torching, we probably do 700-800 ton a month. We have one torchman.
And you're processing by the thickness of the material, right?
Yeah, I mean,
what type of, how it gets processed.
Depending on what it is, that's why we have what we call the mobile shear over there. If it's thin enough, we'll take it to the mobile shear. But once after it gets about 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch, it gets difficult for the piece of equipment to cut it. So we'll go ahead and put it in the torch field.
And we surround the torch field with blocks so that trucks can't accidentally drive into it or back into it, because the torchman is looking down at what he's working on, not looking at the traffic around him. So to protect the torchman, we put the torch field in surrounded by blocks.
And actually, the bed of the torch field is like 1-inch stone and has excellent drainage because of the stone and able to walk on it. Right now, it needs to be cleaned out and smoothed a little bit. We do it, I don't know, it could be once a week, twice a week when needed. I can't, behind me here, if you want to talk about that slitter.
Yeah, so this is a similar product to what actually is made out of the tubing as well. So when they're cutting that small piece off of that coil that's coming in, it's going to be a small piece of slitter right there, is what we call a slitter, which is just a small, very small, just piece of metal that steel mills love because of the density of it and the known chemistry of it as well.
You can drive around there if you want, don't you? Right around here.
And then something that you'd be familiar with is AutoCast right here, which is something that everybody will come on a truck or a car. That's going to be inside the wheel there, the hub and the rotor right there.
Right here to your left is what we, don't worry about stopping on the tracks because we're actually, because we don't have nothing running right now. We call this bushling. It's an assortment of metal, but it's, you want to explain that a little bit?
So bushling, so we talked about the bundles over there where they punch something out of a sheet and then we take the oversized piece of it. Well, sometimes the material is smaller. So if it's under like 3 foot, the density is different of that. So a steel mill will pay more for that material. So it's actually the same exact thing, just sized down smaller. So we don't need to bale it. We can ship it just like that because the density is good enough. If you look at the pile that's not baled, you'll see how fluffy it is. So if you try to put that into a truck, you're only going to get, say, 20,000 pounds. If you make it into a cube, you're going to be able to get 40,000 pounds. This material is small enough that if you just take this and throw it into a truck, you'll be able to max out the weight of that truck with that material right there.
It's like you said, it's basically 2 foot and down, size-wise.
Yeah.
This right here is actually a mobile shear. You can see the jaws on it. This is what we use to chop material light enough that doesn't need to go to the torch field. This is about 1,000-ton jaw on there. The cylinder is 1,000-ton pressure. So it will cut up to 3/4 of an inch, depending what it is. It can pierce tanks and everything like that. I don't mean tanks like for the military. I mean like underground tanks and stuff. But it could. It tears a armored car apart in about a minute, so it does a pretty good job. But that's the mobile shear part of it. If you want to turn around, we'll head back a little bit.
Property in the canal. Can we talk talk about just the land.
About the berm. Debbie, you want to talk about the berm we put up back?
For stormwater
I don't even
purposes,
see that
we don't
one.
ever want anything.
I knew we
to
should have
heat
brought a
the
high
property.
chair.
So we have a berm that we created that's like 3 feet high. It goes, and vegetation that goes all around where the water is located, just to ensure that nothing leaves the property and we're often completely, because we have critters that like to drill through those, and we make sure that they're staying intact at all times. You see these containers of water?
Here, you might think it's dirt or something like that that we pushed up. That's actually steel fines in there. So to think about how we're trying to recycle everything that we can. From the customers, like the guys that are making the tubing, when they cut that tube, there's real fine metal that comes off of that. That'll come here. And also when they're taking the sheet from the steel mill and they're folding it into a tube, they then have to weld it. Okay, it's like a pinpoint precision weld on that tube. You'll never be able to see it with your actual eye, that actual weld that's on there. But when they weld it, it creates, like, you'll see like a very small, like a little, it's called a scarfing.
It's a scarfing.
Yeah, so what they do is it's just a little extra metal that's on that weld, and then they'll shave it off. It's called a scarfing, and that's what's there. And we're recycling all that material. No matter what they're doing, if it has metal, we're recycling it.
So was it last year or the year before, Wayne, when we had this light or electrical pole changed? The transmission.
You know what? Time flies. It's almost
I know.
almost 3 years.
But it's a much smaller footprint than the one back there.
Yeah, it was basically one of the, like the material we're cutting at the Bazzani, same kind of material. You see the lattice, the old towers down there? They went to the single pole tower. And it's hard to believe that hole that they made there was like 58 feet.
Yes, it was very deep.
It was amazing, man, what they did. This area right here, this is our rail scale. So we weigh the cars in and out in between them two yellow. If you pull up just a little bit more, I'm sorry.
So the same way that we weigh in and out the material here to buy from our customers is the same way that we sell to a steel mill. We weigh the car empty, then we fill it, and then we send it out, so we know the weight that we're shipping out, and then they do the same thing on their end.
And that's why you see a little bit of tubing here. You see some slitter there, and there's bundles in the back. The cars come to the scale, and we adjust them right here. So there's always material so that we don't have to take the car all the way back and forth all day long. So we just have a little bit left there at all times.
Because there's a legal limit to how much you can actually ship per car, and then sometimes the car's not full, so he'll add material, or if it's too heavy, we'll take material off.
Which this location, the Harbor, Indiana Harbor Belt, is who we use, is 263,000.
To, contractors redoing copper pipe, siding coming off of somebody's house that a contractor's redoing, that's all going to be going into that non-ferrous warehouse. So obviously a lot smaller than what a steel yard looks like, but that's why the pricing is so different. Like a steel could, there's so much volume of it, it has less value. Where a non-ferrous, that's why a copper pipe is so much, because there's a lot less volume of it available. So if a magnet doesn't stick to it, it's going to there.
Catalytic converters, copper pipes. There's lots of things that are valuable. We're talking about why they're valuable in the industry, but we have a strict policy about, and I think just
Catalytic
talking more about
converters,
that.
unless it's attached to a vehicle, and Matt can attest to this, that we don't purchase it.
We do not.
We
Any
don't
phone call
purchase
with a
any
loose catalytic
solids.
converter, we do not buy it.
Or any railroad scrap or city scrap or anything like that without a piece of paper.
So if we do get railroad scrap offered up to us, and it does happen a lot, it has to either come directly from the railroad or from a demolition contractor that can send us a piece of paper signed off with their company letterhead saying that we have taken over ownership of this railroad now that it's scrap. and they're allowed to sell it to us as recyclable material.
We won't buy six.
I was saying the city of East Chicago does a great job when they bring their scrap in, because they have the letterhead and they also have photos of it sitting on like a warehouse floor and also in the truck before it comes here. And then they hand it over to us and we put it on file.
Talking about with these poles coming down. So we're the same company that did these poles here. We're actually doing it all the way out to Valpo right now. And this is one of the material that's coming out of the ground. It's an aluminum cable. So they have a machine that's literally just winding it up as it comes out of the ground. It's obsolete now, so it's coming to us, and then we take it. We actually don't need to resize this. We just need to take it in and then put it into a truck and send it to a company that's going to shred this down for the aluminum content that's in there. But this project has been going on for now. We're in the second phase of it. So it's probably about a 6 month to 8 month project that's going on. All the way from, like we said, we did one here, and I can't remember where it started, but it's going all the way till all the way to Valpo, Indiana.
Like specific roles that they play?
We have 20 employees. That is 16 yard, 3 supervisors, and 1 scale operator. We have 5 material handlers. We have a loader. We have 3 forklifts. We have 2 shear cranes, and obviously the baler operator and the shear operator. So it's a real thin crew, but they get the job done. We were moving 14.5 in and out. We basically turn the inventory every month. We're moving 12,000 every month, purchase 12 out. So we do a good job with that. And I think if there's anything that's going to change, it'll be what we were talking about, the shredder. If we do add a shredder, you're probably going to add another 15 to 20 employees to run that operation, because you're going to need a night shift, maintenance shift, and everything else.
And we would be glad to go
4. So for us, like Wayne was saying, 12 in, 12 out, it's all about the efficiency of the process. So us having idling trucks, that's not efficient and not something that we do. If I hear a complaint from a customer like, Wayne, why is this truck sitting for so long? You know, we're doing something wrong on our end though. We're trying to move these trucks in and out as safely and efficiently as we can.
Yeah, but when I call him, he doesn't answer the phone. Just so you guys know that. Pull up just a little bit more. Debbie, I think we'll go up front and show like the peddler operation.
That's fine.
Peddler business, which is the pickup trucks and stuff like that. We have a scale and a kiosk inside this first pod. The sheet iron and everything is dumped right there. As far as the FE, which is the ferrous magnet stick to, it goes back there. We'll take cast, but this is mostly red metal and brass and stuff like that, aluminum.
So if you can see that pile back there, you're going to see washing machine, a refrigerator, water heater, all different obsolete household items that are no longer useful. So some of the ways that you get the copper and the brasses and things is that they're actually taking that material. They're going to cut off the cord because that cord's going to have copper inside of it. It could have a copper pipe attached to it. A water heater on the top. If you go look in your house, that water heater is going to have a copper pipe coming off of it with a brass valve. So they're cutting all that off so they can maximize the value to them, scrapping it to us, and then we're maximizing that value because we're separating it as well to the standard that someone that's melting it down, how they need it. And so a peddler can really be anybody that's going through either just cleaning out your garage or cleaning out your basement, to a guy that does it for a living, where he's actually going through a neighborhood and cleaning up the side of the street, cleaning up, whenever, say you want to get rid of an old metal patio table and chairs and you just put it out on your edge of your driveway, someone's going to come and grab that and take it to someone like us that's going to take that, either shred it down or cut it down into something that the steel mill can melt down. Most people don't just bring in one washer or one dryer. They try to take a whole pickup truck and fill it up.
Sure. But
so
relatively, from a relative perspective, like what's something that everybody does?
So on average, what they bring in their pickup truck is probably about 1,400 pounds of metal, and that's going to pay out somewhere around $110.
Mm-hmm.
And then plus you have, say they have copper pipe, something like that, or a piece of aluminum siding or something. We pay per pound for that material. So aluminum could be 50 cents a pound. A copper pipe could be $3 a pound. So you can tell the difference in the value of each item because the volume of that item there isn't so much of it out there.
And would you say there's a big differential between what peddlers bring in versus what our commercial folks bring in? Even if they bring in the same items, are the copper items already removed from the commercial
Well, actually,
intake, or is it
peddlers now are pretty smart in what they do. I mean, they're trying to maximize the value. I mean, some people, it's their livelihood. That's what they do for a living. So they're trying to maximize that. And not only, for the stuff that's inside of like a washer and a dryer, that pipe, it's probably, when it goes through a shredder, the value of it's not maximized through the shredder. The value of it is maximized when you take it directly out and you have that free copper. So and they're very intelligent on what they're doing and how they're breaking it down. It's very similar to what we're doing. I mean, we're separating metal and trying to break it out into its category to maximize the value. The peddler does the same exact thing, just not with a lot of heavy machinery that we do. But they're doing the exact same thing, whether it's with a screwdriver or whether it's with a bolt cutter, something like that. They're doing the same thing as we are, just on a different scale. Yeah, I get it. When you're in the industry, like when I first walked into a scrapyard, my mind was absolutely blown. And I knew that I was going to fall in love with this industry because there's so much to learn, and what we do is so significant for the world in general. Places like this have to exist to be able to, because the metal won't stop getting produced, and the manufacturers of a lot of products don't really have in mind what's going to happen after this breaks down. Businesses like ours have to be able to handle this material and break it down so it can be recycled.
That's why we hate seeing things like batteries, the lithium batteries and stuff like that.
They're the bane of our existence.